Hello there, today I'm going to talk about Furiosa, which is a new Mad Max film, but this time it does not star Mad Max. Mad Max gets a cameo near the end for like 2 seconds. You know, that's it, that's all you get of Mad Max in this film. But it's still a Mad Max world film. It's set in that same world of Mad Max Fury Road, but set earlier. There's also, it's the same wasteland you got in other films too. So it's a Mad Max film. It just does not star Mad Max. There's no clue where Max is for most of the film. He's just out there doing his thing. This is a terrific film. George Miller understands his world. You know, the worst he's ever done in the Mad Max film is Thunderdome, and it's still a fun film. You know, that's the weakest he's got, and now he's had like 3 out of 5 great films, 1 very good film, and 1 film with a weak second half. That, for a franchise, that's quite amazing. You know, so Furiosa gives you the backstory of Furiosa from Fury Road, and it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. I've seen it twice. The first time I thought it was very good, but maybe not as good as Fury Road. Second time I think it's on par with Fury Road. It's just different. It's longer. It's a longer film, but there's more plot to it, so it needs that extra half hour. But you don't feel it. This is one of those films that's 2.5 hours long. It does not feel like 2.5 hours long. It feels like it's a 2-hour film, generally. At least to me. But I couldn't see where you could cut anything, especially in the rewatch. It's like everything there is what you need for the story. If you took anything out, you'd lose something that's important to either the themes or the atmosphere or just generally what the world is. The film has been written to be fairly tight for this gets this information across, and you need all the bits of information to get to the ending. So it's all necessary. So it's set in it's in 5 parts. So part 1 is Furiosa when she was a young child. She's taken from her homeland, the Greenlands. Second part is her adjusting to the wastelands and learning its rules. The third part is essentially her, you know, learning as an adult to basically how to survive the wastelands as a warrior, to become a road warrior, the way Max is in the other films. Part 4 is her actually realising this world she's in is ready to collapse and she's ready to move on somewhere else, and how life can get in the way. And part 5 is revenge. So it's very simple setups. It's like each part has its own point, and each one interlinks with the others, but they're distinctively these parts of the story that you can watch in bits. You can watch in 5 different bits if you wanted, but it's much more satisfying to watch it in one. But it's just wonderful. It's one of those films that's just wonderful. Now, the weird thing with this film, mainly the thing that's the most complaints is the visual effects, because there's more CGI in this one than what have been in other Mad Max films, and it's more noticeable. But the thing is, when you're watching the cinema, it's not that noticeable. There's a few shots that are noticeable, not really. When you see it compressed down to TV, certain shots become more noticeable with CGI than you would on a bigger screen. I don't know how that's going to look when you get the proper that's just that it's been sent to TV stations and been played in TV stations, played online. I'm not sure how it's going to look in a full 4K transfer with Dolby Vision and things, and seeing if that's still the case. But it does look a bit more CGI. It's just the way the films are made nowadays. But a lot of this film was shot practically. There's still some brutal stunts, which you're amazed no one died during the making of some of these stunts. So it's still got the same point of view. It's just every so often there's a bit more obvious special effect. But it's like every film has that. There's no such thing as a perfect film where every effect is perfect. That just never happens. But it works for what it needs. On the big screen, it really does. You do feel you're in this environment, in this like crazy post-apocalyptic world. And it's like there's some things in this film you could not do practically. People would die if you try to do it practically, so it's just like some things you can't do practically. But that the world itself is built so well, and you're so into the story constantly as each section of the story progresses, that anything to do with effects, it's not really a priority. And that's the big thing about films. If you notice the effects more if you're not into the story, and that's when I was really into the story. The first section really is about Furiosa and her mother. Basically, Furiosa spots these scavengers who have found the place where the green place which they're trying to protect. She tries to sabotage their vehicle. She's caught. These men try and drive away. Furiosa's mother gives chase, and it's essentially it's them being stopped by her mother as they try and get back home, and it's basically a survival piece for like 20 minutes where Furiosa's trying to escape even though she's a little girl, where the mother's trying to kill the men before they reach the place they're trying to reach, and they're all going at top speed to try and avoid getting killed. And this is where you first meet from Hemsworth's Dementus, who's the warlord of the area. He's the one they're trying to get back to. And shock, they get back to him, but then that complicates it even more. How these things happen become more complicated. You start to get an idea of who Dementus is, how he's this warlord who scavenges the land, attacks these other like encampments, and is just generally a lunatic, but he's smarter than the others, so he can actually command the others, but he is generally a lunatic. And this whole section is amazing. This whole section just gives you the world straight away. No one can be trusted apart from your loved ones, and even then it can get tragic. Everyone else is out for basic survival, and it's just this adrenaline rush of like a mother trying to save her daughter and try to save her home from these marauders who have destroyed the world. The second part is Furiosa following this section, which has to learn how to deal with Dementus and his troops as they go around the land. She's not going to tell them where the Greenland is, and she just gets to see how they actually deal with the landscape and deal with the fact that they're just marauding around trying to keep up in gas and trying to keep up in food. And it's a difficult existence. And eventually, at this point, they come into contact with Morton Joe and basically the area of the gas towns, the bullet towns, and the paradise that Joe built for himself with all the boys who believe in Valhalla. And Dementus wants a bit of that action, so the second section is basically Dementus versus Morton Joe and how they interact and how they have to try and find some sort of peace with each other, which obviously involves lots of violence. And it's Furiosa mainly a lot of scenes from Furiosa's point of view, seeing like how these adults react and what do you have to do to survive within this environment. So even though Dementus takes center stage in this, it's all about Furiosa ultimately and how she sees how to survive. The third part is her growing up a bit more as a road warrior, and she's on the rig, and there's a great 15-minute sequence when some of the scavengers on the land are trying to attack their war rig, which goes between the different encampments for the gas town or the bullet town, which you saw on a later version of the war rig in Fury Road, but this is an early version of it, and it's one amazing sequence. And it's probably one of the best Mad Max sequences, but it doesn't have Mad Max in it. There's a Praetorian Joe is the guy who rides this thing, and he's almost like a Mad Max clone. He's someone who's obviously went through the same things as Mad Max has, or similar things, and he's also a road warrior, and it's like this sense of he's like this kind of iconography guy who's everyone knows and everyone's scared of, and everyone knows not to mess with him, and he takes Furiosa under his wing and tries to teach her how to be a road warrior, and also knows that she wants to leave and get home, so he's trying to help her develop the skills to find a way home, because he's seen what this wasteland does to people, so he's trying to help who he can. The fourth section is basically what happens when Dementus comes back into the picture, because he's out of the picture for a lot of part 3, and part 4, his problems with his own people, his problem with Joe, start back up, and that creates part 4 and part 5, which I won't say much about because it's a new film, but these are epic. There's epic action scenes, epic emotional scenes, and it's just about like a situation that's full of tension escalating to war, and it's this sense of this is something that happens with human beings all the time. This is what destroyed the world in the first place, and it's just going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's just wonderful. The whole film is wonderful because each section shows you how to survive in this world, how not to survive, and how a lot of it's just luck. You can do everything right and you still get unlucky. And Demented is smart on their looks a lot of the time, and Martin Joe's smart on their looks. And some of the interesting things is you're actually seeing like why was Furiosa with Martin Joe? Well, it was the best of a bad bunch, really. Why did you stay with him? Well, we find that out as the film goes on. I'm not going to spoil that bit. But it's also, it's this case of, this is what you have to do to survive in this world. This is what the world takes out of you in this area. And there's a sense of Martin Joe in this one is still corrupt, still horrible person, still keeping power, and he's using people all over. But he hasn't quite fallen as bad as he will in the Fury Road to being a total. I mean, he's already abusive. He's already got his havens of women and things, but he's not the dirty old man of the later films. This one, he's kind of much more of a powerful figure who you don't really mess with. Like, he knows when to compromise, when not to compromise, and he's much more of a tactician compared to the rest of the people around him. And he also knows he has to deal very carefully with Dementus. So it's a case of watching these two figures strike off against each other, and watch Furiosa try and survive in the middle of this battle between these two figures. But it's also about her development from being a little girl to seeing how the world actually is, because even though she was a tearaway, she thought she knew everything, she quickly learned she didn't know everything in the world and tried to learn how ways to survive. And the film about her learning, going from a little girl to someone who's a bit more observant of the world, to being someone who can participate in the world and be someone who can work the war rig. Like, she hides out in the Martin Joe's camp for years by suggesting she's mute and working on the war rigs because she knows how to do machines. So there's that sense of she's smart and she knows what the limitations are of her position in any place. And then just slowly, by meeting the guy who teaches her things, she learns how to be an actual road warrior and actually fight. Because a lot of people there who are like the war boys and things, or for Martin Joe, who can do all the see me and do the thing with the on the mouth and things to into Valhalla, but they're not great fighters. Furiosa is a great fighter, and she's tough and she's tactical. So even in a bad situation, you can see ways out of it, and because she's clear-headed in a way that those other boys aren't. So that's what you pick up as the story goes on, and as the story goes on, you start to realise how brutal she can be and how determined she can be to survive, and how damaged she's been by her experiences, and how difficult it's been. But also the fact that she's not someone you want to mess with. She will tear people apart to get what she wants. So it's just a wonderful film. The atmosphere's terrific. You get to see all the oranges of the sand, all the yellows, all the browns. Dementus is a very colourful figure who's got this teddy bear attached to him as well, because it was from his daughters, and he's got all these weird things. He's a weird accent, and it's just a strange thing where Chris Hemsworth plays him as obviously having a ball playing this guy, but he's never allowed to go totally over the top. He's always got a purpose. Anya Taylor-Joy's Furiosa is terrific. The girl who plays her early on is also terrific. And there's this sense of this is someone learning, and it's it's just a terrific film. It's basic to the point. It doesn't stop and explain things like ad nauseum. Whenever someone speaks, there's a point to what they say. And when they're not speaking, I'll probably more a point why they're not speaking. I just see them watching and figuring things out. A lot of the relationship between Furiosa and the guy who's training her is non-verbal. He just shows her by example and tries to teach her everything she needs to know. As the film goes on, they realise they have to be more and more brutal and more smart to survive the upcoming wars between Dementus and Immortan Joe. And it's just wonderful how it's all built up. There's some great action scenes throughout, but the best one is on the war rig as they're being attacked. That's just pure Mad Max genius. It's just 15 minutes of utter genius. But some of the other ones are amazing as well. There's so many great action scenes, but the action scenes work because they're emotional, because there's a point. The first section is a mother trying to retrieve her daughter. Later on, it's basic survival. And it's one thing George Miller remembers is these action scenes are basic survival for the characters. They're trying to survive. That's it. It's not like some Michael Bay-esque over-the-top thing where it's just about cool stunt after cool stunt. This is just them trying to survive, and it's like how far will they go to survive and how brutal it can be. There are some crashes in this where you just went and go, that looks like it hurt. That looked pretty brutal. There's a couple of injuries that people take in the film that are pretty horrific. When you find out how Furiosa lost her arm, it's pretty brutal. There's some real damage done to people in this film. It's just terrific. But also it's just this beautiful film about someone surviving in hell. It's just such a well-made thing. It's like, so how can other directors not look at this and go, okay, this is the bar I need to try and reach? You know, instead they don't bother. They just try and be the next Michael Bay, and it's like, no, you have to try harder. You have to try aim higher. Because this is beautiful. It has not made a lot of money. It's been a box office bomb, but George Miller's 80. Was there really going to be another Mad Max film coming up? Really? So, I mean, we got 5 really good films from George Miller on the Mad Max series, and there's lots of other good films made outside of that. So, I think you should be happy. You know, that's enough to end the series and be good. So, yeah, Furiosa is just wonderful. I could go on and on, but I don't want to say, oh, this part's great, that part's great, that part's great, because everything's in it. There's great parts. A lot of the supporting characters are wonderful. You'll see some of the actors come back from Fury Road as younger versions of the character, even though the actors are older. George Miller doesn't care. He really does not care. It's like, yep, these people in these parts were iconic. Just use your imagination. He couldn't do that with Furiosa because she's in all the scenes, so he couldn't do it with Charlize Theron. But if it's an actor who's in the background, he appears for like 3 or 4 scenes throughout the film, Miller knows he can get away with it. And this is just a great film. This is one of the films of the year. Try and see it before it goes off the big screen, because you need the big screen to really get its effect. It's not for TV. It's better than that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you go see Furiosa while it's still playing, because it is just wonderful. Okay, that's me for now. Bye.